Today, we are going to see a video on plagues and viruses and learn why it's a global pandemic. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Dina Kalmeta here with CWW7 News. And for today's broadcast, I'd like to bring you an update concerning some plagues and viruses that have popped up in the last few weeks. And I like to bring you these types of reports so that you are aware of what's happening in Bible prophecy, because this is indeed a part of prophecy. So with that said, I'd like to take you to this first report from The Sun, and they are reporting about a deadly parasite worm that's set to invade Europe, and it lays its eggs inside human organs. Around 25 to 30% of humans are currently infected with at least one parasitic worm species. The diseases they cause can be devastating. Worm infections can lead to diverse and chronic conditions such as scarring of the eyes and blindness, swelling and immobility, blockage of digestion, and malnutrition. The virus dubbed snail fever currently affects hundreds of millions of people each year, causing thousands of deaths. Caused by flatworms, the infection occurs when people come into contact with a type of freshwater snail that produces the worms. These worms then penetrate the skin and live in the blood vessels surrounding the intestines or bladder of the individual. It goes on further to report that according to a professor, global travel and climate change could mean we see parasitic worms continuing to move into parts of Europe and North America. The long-term consequences of increased parasitic worm distributions are difficult to predict, but the harm that infection causes highlights the need for developing control strategies that can mitigate this 21st century threat to global health. K2 News in Portland is reporting that measles cases have been confirmed in Portland, with about 500 people possibly exposed. Multnomah County officials say approximately 500 people were exposed to a confirmed case of measles in the Portland area. Of those 500, the Multnomah County Health Department Communicable Disease Services team is monitoring 40 people who were exposed and considered non-immune. People with measles can spread the virus to others before they show symptoms. The virus can also linger in the air for minutes or hours after someone with measles leaves the area. And moving along, the Telegraph is reporting that doctors are warning that a little known but increasingly common sexually transmitted disease is in danger of becoming a superbug, with sexual health clinics lacking the tools to diagnose it properly. Mycoplasma genitalium has similar symptoms to chlamydia, but is more resistant to treatment and can lead to pelvic inflammatory disease in women and ultimately infertility. It goes on further to report around 1 to 2% of men and women are thought to be infected with the disease, although rates in some STD clinics are as high as 38%. It goes on even further to report that potentially up to 3,000 women a year over the next 10 years could become infertile because of MG. This next report comes from Express News, and they are reporting that scientists have found 2 new viruses that could lead to a deadly disease X outbreak. Experts are trying to get ahead of the disease X, an unknown pathogen that could trigger a global pandemic before it wipes out swathes of humanity. The PREDICT project has been looking through the animal kingdom to discover viruses which could one day mutate and evolve to kill all of humanity. Now, a group of scientists from the Smithsonian Institute in the United States and University of California have discovered 2 new viruses in Myron Marie's bats. The viruses which were discovered belong to the coronavirus family, which have already caused 2 outbreaks. One is the severe acute respiratory syndrome, otherwise known as SARS, which infected about 8,000 people in 2003. The other is the Middle East respiratory syndrome, MERS, which has 35% mortality rate and was first identified in 2012. However, the scientists who made the discovery say the new viruses are not closely related to SARS nor MERS, and more research will need to be done to see how they affect humans. A wildlife vet with Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute's Global Health Program stated that the goal is to look for a pandemic virus, a virus that has the potential to have high mortality. We already know about viruses that have mutated like avian influenza or swine. It's a concern for us, but right now it doesn't seem that this virus will do that. Scientists would be able to determine what level of mutation you would need for that to happen. We still have hundreds more samples to test, and we expect that we will find more novel viruses. The team will now examine humans in the nearby areas of Myanmar to see if the viruses have already transferred to the local populations. With that said, this next report comes from Fox News, and they are asking the question, what is Rocky Mountain spotted fever? Signs, symptoms, and treatment for the tick-borne disease. Ticks are known for spreading a variety of different ailments, such as Lyme disease, tularemia, babesiosis, and more. One type of tick, the Lone Star, has even been said to carry an infectious organism that can result in an allergy to red meat. Others can infect humans with an ailment known as Rocky Mountain spotted fever, a potentially fatal disease reported under a category called SFR. More than 11 cases per million people were reported in the United States in 2014, according to the CDC. In July, the Wisconsin Department of Health Services announced the first ever documented death from the virus. It goes on even further to report that while this virus has been reported across the country, it is most common in states such as North Carolina, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Missouri. The CDC reported that these states account for over 60% of cases each year. Certain species of tick are to blame for the disease as well. And speaking of insects, USA Today is reporting in regards to the Keystone virus, another mosquito-borne virus might pose a risk to people, specifically those in Florida. A confirmed human case of Keystone was recently reported in the medical journal Clinical Infectious Diseases. Research author J. Glenn Morris suggested that the Keystone cases could be fairly common in North Florida, but he said this is the first confirmed case, possibly because patients are rarely tested for the virus. The virus was first discovered in the Tampa Bay area in 1964. Since then, animal cases including squirrels, raccoons, and deer have been found from Texas to the Chesapeake Bay. The virus is transmitted from mosquito bites. Symptoms might include a rash, mild fever, and brain inflammation. University of Florida researchers recently said a 16-year-old boy was the first human case of the Keystone virus. The teen did not suffer from brain swelling, but did have a fever and rash. The case was identified because doctors thought the teen might be suffering from the Zika virus during a known outbreak. The laboratory tests they collected from him for Zika testing led them to the Keystone discovery. The Florida Department of Health stated there was another recorded case of the virus in a young child from Sarasota in 1964. At this time, there's no specific treatment plan for viruses in humans. And again, speaking of insects, the Daily Record is reporting about a swarm of vampire horseflies that have hit the UK and is bringing a threat of a serious infection. The recent heat wave has seen populations of blood-sucking clegs or horseflies reach the Mediterranean levels. The females feed off blood, with the charity warning that bites could result in painful swellings and the possibility of infections which might not be treatable with existing antibiotics. While the majority of small but nonetheless painful insect bites and stings can be treated at home with over-the-counter medication, itchy horsefly bites take longer to heal and can become infected, especially if scratched. Current treatments include steroid creams and, with serious cases, broad-spectrum antibiotics. But with bacteria in our bodies becoming more resistant to antibiotics, it can be difficult to find the right treatment to fight these infections, and in some cases this has resulted in the threat of amputation or death. A professor has stated that it is entirely possible in 2018 that you can die of an insect bite, not just in some hot foreign climate, but here in Britain. We have not investigated in the kinds of antibiotics we need to keep up with the devious and ever-changing bacterial infections. Now we are in real danger that we could return to a pre-antibiotic past where dirty wounds, bites in conditions like TB and typhoid might kill. This next report comes from the Mirror, and they are reporting about a terrifying new species of wasp with a stinger like a fierce weapon is discovered. A team from a university in Finland found new species living in the Amazon rainforest. A professor who worked on the study stated that the stinger of the new parastoid wasp is not only long, but also very wide in comparison with the size of the species. He said, "I have studied tropical parastoid wasps for a long time, but I have never seen anything like it. The stinger looks like a fierce weapon. All female wasps have a stinger, which is used to either inject venom or lay eggs. The egg is placed either on or inside the host, and as it also works as a stinger, the female wasp can inject venom into the host in order to paralyze it." When I hear about these specific insects, especially this last report from the Mirror in regards to this wasp, it makes me think about what will happen during the Great Tribulation. What am I talking about? Well, for those that are not familiar, during the Great Tribulation, there will be a number of plagues that will occur. And one of those plagues involves an insect, but not just any normal insect. This insect is going to come from the pits of hell. If we go to the book of Revelation, chapter 9, the Bible goes into detail about this particular insect. It says, "And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them." So now we go into what these insects look like. "And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of lion. And the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. And their power was to hurt men for 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel, the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon." So these are definitely some ugly demonic creatures. And they're directed only to those that do not have the seal of God. So the unbelieving and the unrepentant will be tortured for 5 months. However, all those who have believed the gospel of salvation through Jesus Christ are sealed with the Holy Spirit until the final day of redemption and inheritance. But those that are not believing and are not sealed by the seal of God will be tormented for 5 months. So why 5 months? Because that is the lifespan of a locust. People will actually seek death, but will not find it. However, this could be an opportunity for those that are unrepentant to seek Jesus during this time and receive salvation, because that is God's ultimate goal, that not one should perish. So in conclusion, it's very interesting that we're seeing these types of insects right now, or a form of them. They're going to be much more hideous when they come from the bottomless pit. But I just wanted to bring you those verses for those that are not aware of what is going to take place during the Great Tribulation. But in a whole, all of these plagues and viruses that we are seeing right now is indeed a part of prophecy. We see it in the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 7, as well as in the book of Mark, chapter 13, verse 8, as well as the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 11. However, during the Great Tribulation, we will hear of more of them. But I just wanted to bring you guys this really quick update today. Please do leave me your comments. Tell me what you think. Also, come and visit us on Facebook, where we have these stories and many more.
Well, okay. What did you think about the previous video? Please leave your comments and replies in the comment section below. Thank you.